Hello, everybody, and welcome to North 100, a Canadian Highlander podcast. I'm Serge. Joining me today, I have a Jer.
Hello.
And a Wheeler.
Hello. My mute button definitely didn't not unstick.
Reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with your support at the Patreon over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. We had a lot of fun doing the top 5 instance, so we're back today with top 5 sorceries. Now, again, this is a subjective list. Help?
Yes.
Yeah.
Haha, nailed it. This is our personal top 5, all killer, no filler. And last time, Ben and Jer had this great thing where they did Wooburg, and I thought that was neat. So we decided to formalize it. This time, it's just all Wooburg. We've all picked the most powerful card in a color, and we've all allowed ourselves an honorable mention because there are some very powerful sorceries in Canadian Highlander. We've decided to just not talk about Demonic Tutor and Time Walk. Otherwise, all of our lists would be the same. And, we might allow a little bit of guessing here and there to see if we can guess what other people would have picked. Anything else you think we need to add in the intro here, friends?
Sorceries are just slow instants. That's it.
Galaxy brain there, my friend. All right, Jer, why don't you start us off with your top 5 sorceries in Canadian Highlander?
Well, first, I'm going to throw in an honorable mention since we decided we were getting to do that. This easily could have been on my list. I love this card. It might be my most cast blue card of all time, which is a pretty prestigious thing. I've cast a lot of blue cards. It's Ponder. It's a single blue for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order, and then shuffle your library and then draw a card. I know it's May shuffle, but if you do it correctly, you just shuffle every time.
Ponder. Huh.
I'm shocked that didn't make your top 5.
Just roll up the sleeve a bit, Ben. And of course, we go with the moon art. No fish here.
Not fish art? Fish art's best art.
Disagree. Yeah, this card's amazing. It's one of the best cantrips ever printed. Does it all for a single blue mana.
I have an important question here. Why Ponder and not Preordain?
Ponder's more powerful in a vacuum.
Do you have any insight as to why that might be?
We could do an entire podcast episode on Ponder versus Preordain.
Yeah, fair enough.
Long story short, you get to make your decision based on more information.
That's a very good summary. All right, strong start. Very strong start with Ponder.
Yep. Now we'll jump into the top 5 with the white card. Any guesses before I roll in?
I wrote down Terminus.
Strong guess.
I wrote down Wrath of God.
Also a strong guess. I went with a different 4-mana sorcery. I went with Armageddon.
Really?
Perhaps you have heard of it. It is 3 and a white for a sorcery. And the rules text is really simple. It says destroy all lands.
Ooh, it's symmetrical.
Yeah, it's perfectly symmetrical. I've actually cast this card a lot, and it's probably the card I've scooped to, the highest percentage of it resolving against me. I play decks where if this resolves, I lose. No questions asked. So anytime this card resolves against me, I snap, pack it in.
I'm shocked you went with Get In. I mean, Wheeler and I both had you on a Wrath effect there.
I mean, Wraths are good, but the things that you deem the most powerful are the things that destroy you, And Wraths aren't that good against the decks I play. I play Wraths, and I know their power in keeping you alive and allowing you to do powerful nothing.
My curveball pick was going to be Lingering Souls if it wasn't a wrath.
That takes me back.
Wow.
I love Lingering Souls. All right, moving on to the blue card. This one's just objectively powerful. It's 8 mana. It's 7 and a blue, but it only costs a blue. It's a sorcery. It's Treasure Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Draw 3 cards, but it has Delve. Since we didn't get to take Ancestral last time, I took it this time. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I love more in this game than drawing more cards, especially if those cards also draw me cards. So,
all right. In my defense, my guess for your blue card was effectively building a recall. I had Merchant Scroll.
That was my second choice.
Yeah.
So good.
I had Preordain as your blue card.
I almost had. I was waffling so hard between Cruise and Merchant Scroll because Cruise is the boring choice, but probably the good choice.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with draw 3 cards.
Yeah. I mean, it's just boring, right? It's just this card's really good.
Yeah, I guess I cast it and I win.
Whereas Merchant Scroll could be anything. It's exciting. Goes in High Tide, which is one of my favorite decks. Yeah, so Treasure Cruise could Good magic card. The black card, I'll let you guess because you're not going to guess it.
My guess was Cabal Therapy.
My guess was Doomsday.
I'm super against Cabal Therapy in Highlander, except for
Really?
like very niche uses. Yeah, I went with Living Death, which is
Oof.
5 mana, 3 black sorcery. Each player exiles all cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards exiled this way onto the battlefield. Super, super powerful card. Definitely a niche card, and definitely abusing the fact that these are subjective lists and not objective lists, because I can't really defend this as the best black sorcery objectively.
I for sure would have had you on like a combo card, a reanimator card.
This is a reanimator card. What are you talking about?
That's so much reanimation.
But not reanimate? Like Living Death over just like straight up?
Why take one when you can have them all? And also this goes in Aristocrats, which is a deck I like. And it goes in like goofy black-green survival decks, which I like. Just goes in more decks.
All
that I
right,
like.
all right.
And it's a Wrath, which I also like. Like, yeah. When you think about it, this is a pretty jerk card.
It does cost 5 mana.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, there.
I was waiting for it. I was like,
Oh,
I couldn't make a list of putting in a doofy 5 drop.
well played.
Now for my red card, it's just objectively correct, but I'll let you guess anyways.
Objectively correct.
Yeah. I think I played myself. Like I tried to get way too cerebral with my pick. I picked Flame Slash.
All right.
It was between Flame Slash or like Forked Bolt or Arc Trail or something.
Serge, what did you guess?
I don't actually have any idea what red card it would
All
be
right.
outside of Scape Shift, but like that doesn't.
That's a green card.
I know.
The objectively correct red sorcery is Faithless Looting.
Oh,
It's just,
What?
it's just insanely good. Single red mana.
I mean, you're right.
Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and it is flashback for 2 in a red. I wasn't on this card for a long time, and then I like slowly started playing it in more and more decks, and then I just went into literally every red deck I played in the format, and I don't see myself going back. Like even on splashes, I've played this card. It's just so good, and the amount of things that utilize the graveyard in the format are so high. So having flashback cards are really nice. Yeah, cards insane. Then my last card, another pretty spicy one.
My guess here, Eldritch Evolution.
Ben?
I just went with Scape Shift.
Yeah, Serge got it. Those were my two. I was literally waffling. I was going to give you a hint and say it was the card that has been pointed for the least amount of time in format's history.
We don't talk about that. We don't.
So for those who don't know, Eldritch Evolution is 1 green. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, where X is 2 plus the sacrificed creature's converted mana cost. Put that card straight onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, and then you exile Eldritch Evolution. This card's busted. As is my way, I tend to play it like to put like Arc Slugger or something stupid into play as opposed to putting Kiki Jiki into play, which is how you're supposed to use this card. But both are good. But if you're trying to use it optimally, you should be putting Kiki Jiki into play.
Interesting list. Very interesting list here.
Well, last time I went like super straight edge. Like I picked pretty close to what I thought was actually the best. So this time I went a little goofier, a little more,
A little deeper.
Yeah.
They're still all strong though, and they've got personality. I wouldn't have put you on Geddon though. I mean, a lot of them don't surprise me, but Geddon, you're just not a Geddon player. I'd have Wheeler on Geddon.
Do you know how many times I've played like stupid green-white midrange, and the only way I won games was by resolving Armageddon or Ravages of War?
Your normal stupid green-white mid-range is to Wrath yourself. Is like
No, that's
like,
banned.
That's banned control. That's Goyf Loxodon Smiter.
No,
Wrath
it's
God.
Voice Resurgence. Voice Resurgence revitalized that archetype.
Oh.
Yeah, the Wrath your own board mid-range that no one sees
There
coming.
was a legendary game where I played against the Grease, and he was on Grixis, of course, and on turn 2 I played Voice Resurgence on the play, and he like freaked out, and then I played Loxodon Smiter and he scooped.
Oh.
What? He just saw it coming. He's like, I'm out. I can't beat this.
Well, because he knew I was on a control deck, so he kept like a bunch of goofy blue cards, and then he just got beat
Oh my
down
God.
because he couldn't
Oh my
cast
God.
any of his goofy blue cards.
Amazing. I don't know. I thought that was a pretty strong list. All right, Wheeler, any thoughts before we jump over to me?
kind of might beat myself up over that Flame Slash pick.
I thought that was a good pick.
Yeah, it felt like I tried to game the system too much. The system where none of us, like, there's no reason to try to game the system.
No,
but,
not at all. Yeah, we're not trying to get each other. There are no prizes if you're wondering.
There's
We're just-
$1,000.
What?
on the
Oh, man,
line.
there's $1,000 now? I should have studied.
That's what James said.
Oh, wow. $1,000 worth of ice cream and empty promises. All right.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's move on. All right. My honorable mention, there's no point in guessing the honorable mention, is Gamble. Single red mana sorcery. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, and shuffle your library. This card is fantastic. This card is very, very cool. I don't think it has as many homes now as it used to, but there's a soft spot in my heart for this single red tutor. You disagree, Wheeler?
Yeah, I think Gamble, I think it's got more. My Gamble, like, I've started treating Gamble the way Jared described Faithless Looting, where it's just like, it's just Demonic Tutor or Entomb. Either way.
Yeah, right. And like a long time ago, it's just like people put it into goblins and like you kind of laughed whenever they cast it, and then either they discarded their goblin recruiter or you lost. Now there's just so many decks that utilize the graveyard so effectively where you're like, yeah, this is actually just Demonic Tutor / Entomb, whichever is better. Like, I got to play it in that busted Storm deck I played in the top 8, and it was like one of the best cards in that deck.
It's kind of absurd.
All right. Anybody want any guesses on my white card here before we move on?
Get ready for this no scope, dude.
Balance.
Ooh, I said Council's Judgment.
One of you got it, and that person is Wheeler. Yeah, I chose Council's Judgment, and it was between Council's Judgment and Balance. Wow. I
thought I had the soul read.
Well, one of you did. Okay. All right. If you don't know the card, 3 mana sorcery, 1 white, Will of the Council. Starting with you, each player votes for a non-land permanent you don't control. Exile each permanent with the most votes or tied for the most votes. This is just the most powerful white removal spell ever printed. I find it as basically an auto-include in almost every white deck I play right now. It's like, what if you played Oblivion Ring, but with no downside? And if you're not familiar with playing a Will of the Council card in a 1v1 format, you basically just always get the choice you want. There's no worries about shenanigans. You kind of just skip past the part where you ask your opponent to also make a vote. You just vote for the same thing. So you just kind of shortcut it to be a very, very powerful removal spell.
I mean, sometimes it's worth asking.
Yeah, fair. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, is there something on your board you'd also like to destroy?
Not actually. Don't scumbag people like that.
No, please don't. All right. Any guesses for my blue card?
This one I completely whiffed on. Like, this one I was just like trying to think of a blue sorcery that you were into. And I just put Tinker. And I know that's wrong. I
put Windfall.
Ooh.
Windfall was close, and I actually had Wheeler on Windfall, but no. My card is Ponder. Jared's honorable mention. Yeah, single blue mana. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. You may shuffle your library and draw a card. For all the same reasons Jared talked about, I put this in almost every single blue deck I play. It's very powerful. It's slightly stronger than Preordain, and I don't know, I just have so many fond memories of playing against people. They play like an untapped blue source turn 1, and you just kind of no scope it. You're like, Ponder. They're like, yeah, wow. I don't know, that just brings me back.
Ponder, I mean, it's a very, very much a feel good card. Like, it's not a card you include because it makes you happy when you cast it. You include it because it's extremely good.
Yeah.
And you have the ability to add blue to your deck. But it's just, when you Ponder, it's one of those cards where it's like, if I Ponder and it's all garbage and I shuffle it away, like, you feel, for whatever reason, you would feel that like, oh, well, that's the bad outcome, right? Because you don't get to decide what you're drawing.
That's best possible.
Yeah, it feels great. It's just like, get rid of this trash and hey, you know,
it's just like you get to take the like mystery box option. Like, yeah, like when you Ponder, and like the worst case is when there's like either one really, really good card, so you have to keep it and get stuck with 2 like chunguses, there's 2 medium good cards,
Yeah.
and you have to deal with that last card eventually. But like the best case is obviously 3 insane cards, but like that
Yeah.
never happens. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But the best case is when you get to shuffle some garbage off the top of your deck, and then you like,
Yeah, I don't want any of these. Goodbye. Yeah, exactly. All right, friends. Who had the soul read on my black card?
I put him to Torak. Although, oh god, okay, I put in him to Torak, but now I think I know what it's actually going to be.
I put in Thoughtseize.
Okay, I think it's actually smallpox.
No,
You're very close
deep.
with both of those, Wheeler. Black. I actually picked Sinkhole.
Oh god,
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be. Yeah,
Destroy target land. If we're just talking about those Pox decks, like Sinkhole's fun, Pox is fun, but nothing really screams fun, much like Sinkhole does.
yeah.
For those strategies where you just gotta go for those like kidney shots, just hit them right where it hurts. And they're mana base.
Sinkhole does feel like not like cheating, but it's just one of those because it's not obviously this like bust in half kind of card, but like when you sinkhole somebody, it always feels like they have this reaction of, oh yeah, sinkhole exists and I'm losing to it, right? They're like, oh god, yeah, I guess I'm now behind. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. Sinkhole, with the exception of exactly one legacy deck, Sinkhole is a card that doesn't see a ton of play, and that it can have a home in our format also makes it feel like a very Highlander card.
Yeah, it's like cube, and then like the person that has a Pox deck that the last change they made was adding like Urborg to their deck. I guess Liliana the Veil is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. All right, let's move on to red. Any guesses?
I had you as Gamble.
Oh yeah.
I have you as Wheel.
All right, Jared's got it. Wheel of Fortune, 3 mana sorcery, 2 in a red. Each player discards their hand and draws 7. This card is fantastic. It just sets up so many of the decks that I like to play, in particularly in my workshop strategies. Dump your hand as quickly as you can and just draw 7. And I think it's Wheeler who basically just said, just make your opponent draw 7 until they don't have anything.
I mean, yeah, it's a win condition.
Yeah, the amount of times I've won a game casting a draw 7 on turn 1, it's like you got to play out a bunch of mana rocks, and they now kept a random 7. And I don't know how many games of Highlander you've played keeping random 7s, but some of those hands are real bad.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a turn 1 with eggs. And when I call it a turn 1, people are like, oh, so Black Lotus? I'm like, no. I went like it was like Ancient Tomb, like Chrome Mox, Mox Opal, some other garbage artifact. Well, it was eggs, so yeah, probably. Into just turn 1 Wheel of Fortune. And like that was my only land. And like it's just like turn 1 wheel. They pitched their hand, and I like passed. They drew for the turn, and then just conceded.
Yeah,
because they just drew a 7 without lands in it. And I'm like, all right, great, thanks, wheel.
Even on those weird turns where you've got Mana Vault in play tapped, and you've done like 8 damage to yourself with a combination of Ancient Tomb or a Rav Duel entering play untapped, it's worth it. It's almost always worth it just to set up your board, half dome yourself your like the majority of your life total, and then just put your opponent on a random 7. It's so disruptive.
Live by the wheel, die by the wheel.
All right, it's time for my final pick. It's time for my green card. What are your guesses?
Sylvan Scrying.
My guess was Loam, but I don't think it's Loam now.
It's Green Sun's Zenith.
Ooh.
Good show.
Yeah.
I almost picked GSZ too.
So X and a green sorcery, search your library for a green creature card with CMC X or less, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. And then also shuffle Green Sun's Zenith into your library. This is a very powerful effect, and there have been stronger cards since. I mean, look at Jer's inclusion of Eldritch Evolution, for example, but there's just something about Green Sun. It's just so pure. It just does exactly what you want it to do, which is, just find a green creature, put it into play. You don't need a setup. You don't need to worry about creatures dying. Hey, mana.
It's kind of messed up. It's just like, hey, all those green creatures you're playing? Well, this is every single one of them, but it costs 1 more, and you might get hit with a Spell Pierce.
Yeah.
Oh no, wherever will I find 1 more mana in my green deck?
Yeah.
Oopsie doopsie.
I don't know. Every time I play green, I have myself a conversation of, is this a Green Sun deck? And The answer is almost always yes. It's powerful. It's versatile. It slices. It dices. The hardest part of Green Sun when it's in your hand is deciding which turn to cast it, because the answer it's good every turn, right? You're like, oh, I could do it for 3, or I could wait a turn and do it for 4, or I could wait, right?
Yeah.
And then this is definitely one of those cards that rewards you for knowing your deck better. And you'll see that in a lot of when you watch creators play with this game, being like, okay, what do I have in my deck at 4? Right? You're asking yourself these questions every time you draw a Green Sun. What do I have in my deck at 5? Where can I get the most value out of this already absurdly powerful card?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to pass the conch over to you, Wheeler. What you got?
Alrighty. My honorable mention is, well, I guess, can anybody want to guess it? I will say it's a black card.
For mentions, no idea.
Okay. It's Cabal Therapy. Now, I'm with JR on that. I think it's more, the application of this card in our format's more niche, but the decks that I like to play tend to fall in that niche, like in Sandy B, so like Pattern Rector, Dredge. I like it in World Gorger Dragon combo, so like the Reanimator, that kind of Reanimator style card. You can target yourself, you can target them. It's a free sack outlet. It doubles up on hand attack. It's also just like every time you hit a blind therapy.
Oh, it's so demoralizing.
Yeah, I think about the blind therapy I hit on somebody where they were playing like an Isochron Scepter kind of deck. Like it was like a Jeskai themed around Isochron Scepter. And what did they have? I like named Fire Ice. I just like in the cold, I was just like, you kept that hand really quickly. You got Fire Ice, because I was playing Sandy B with a bunch of dorks, and they were like, they couldn't believe it. Like they're just like, there's no way you must have seen it. And I'm like, no, dude, this makes sense. And my opponent was just so rattled for the entire rest of the game that they were just like they just kept mumbling about it. They're like, I can't believe you hit a blind therapy sort of thing. My white sorcery, this one might be a bit of a curveball.
See, I had you on Geddon, and like Jer taking Geddon.
I had you on Ravages.
Oh, you have him on Ravages? Not Geddon, Ravages just for the style point?
Ben loves that P3K.
I do love P3K. I do wish I picked Cataclysm now, but no, I picked Entreat the Angels. Yeah, I really like this card. And whenever I play, like, my favorite way to play blue-white, like if I play blue-white, it happens when I want to scratch that itch. I hate win conditions. I hate them.
You're playing like a Nick P style deck here.
Same.
Now, real quick, for people who don't know, what is Entreat the Angels?
Oh, well, it's from Avacyn Restored. Its mana cost is technically XX and then 3 white, but it has Miracle for X and 2 white, meaning that you can cast it for its miracle cost when you draw it, if it's the first card you're drawing this turn, and you put X white angels into play.
How big are the angels?
They're 4/4s, and there's a lot of them, but sometimes there's only 2. I love this card from when I played a lot of Legacy, and anytime I get that itch to play blue-white, I don't have any win cons except for it was either this or Approach the Second Sun, and I just love this card and how it deals with Sensei's Top and Brainstorm and all the cards surrounding it. It's so just cool. You can set up, just surprise, I've got angels to block your attack, and now you can't now I've just kind of wrathed your board, or oopsie doopsie, I make 1 angel kill your planeswalker. And then occasionally it's just Exodia. Your opponent's okay, well, they didn't counter my spell, so I guess why didn't they counter my creature? Well, I guess I'm going to win this. Go ahead. All I have to do is untap. And then you're like, that's where you're wrong. Entreat the angels. And then the board is just flooded, and they're like, no, it's impossible.
And then melt and get blasted into a beam of light. Amazing.
There's definitely been times where I have Mystical Tutor and a draw spell in hand. I'm like, oh, I gotta get Terminus here. And then I just stop and think, I'm like, wait, I can just make enough angels to block all their things and then kill them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's just I guess I'll just kill you instead. All right. My blue one. This one, I don't think anybody will get it, but it'll make sense as soon as I say it.
I really wanted you to pick Tinker.
I had him on Tinker too, but him guessing me on Tinker means it's not. So yeah.
Time Spiral.
Yeah,
It's
that makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
time spiral. 4 blue sorcery, exile time spiral. A great line of text to see right off the top.
Yeah.
Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library and draw 7 cards. Oh, and then you get to untap up to 6 lands.
Don't you mean one
Yeah.
land?
I should have known. Yeah. And Untap Academy. Yeah.
It's 1 to 3. Casting this card, I've cast this card a lot. And one of my favorite parts about this card is that it just helps filter mana, because if I'm playing this in eggs or any kind of Academy combo deck, which is usually where you'll find me, yeah, I've tapped my Academy. I got a buttload of blue mana, but white mana, green mana, that stuff
I can't believe you're using this to get like white,
key.
white or white, green. That's so
Yeah.
dirty. That's so dirty.
Look, I got like 25 blue, but like Second Sunrise costs white, dude. Crop
Oh my
rotations
God.
aren't going to cast themselves. Like,
This makes me so upset.
yeah. Or untapping like deserted temples and
Yeah,
stuff.
no, the worst part is you're right, and that's what makes me angry.
Yeah, you can untap their lands too, which is just kind of fun. I mean, don't do it, but also I just like that you can do that. That's all. Yeah, this card's absurd. It's disgusting. Absolutely broken in half. I don't know why. I mean, it's from a different era, but like a free draw 7 that is also just like a bajillion dark rituals is kind
They
of gross.
hacked up.
Yep. For my black sorcery.
Jared,
I had you on Reanimate.
I've got you on him. I've got you on him.
Ooh, I hate him to Torak, but I love Reanimate. So Jared gets that one.
Nice,
it's
Jared.
Reanimate. Yeah, it was either Reanimate or Duress, honestly.
I figured it was hand attack, so
Yeah, but Reanimate is just like the card. I mean, I guess you could just play the clip of the last time I did best card you're not playing, because it just does everything. It's like
real quick, what does it do?
Well, it's a 1 black sorcery. You put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. Obviously, not the most fair card, but you can play it with fair-ish applications, and it's not as if there isn't a downside. Like, Canlander Reanimator isn't a bajillion Gristlebrands and Ionas. So sometimes you're just like, all right, I'll reanimate this creature that'll just get pathed, and all of a sudden I'm out 8 life. And
I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you get to steal your opponent's things. You can reanimate your own like utility creature. You can find it off Spellseeker. There's just so much to this card outside of its like predicted like broken application, and it's just super cool. And the artwork, the original Tempest artwork, is just, it's so like dramatic. Like when you look at it, you're just like, oh, that's disgusting. Cool. But my red sorcery,
Jared?
let's take a guess.
I have been on Gamble.
I have Burning of Jingye.
It's faceless looting, actually.
Really? Wait, is this our first, other than like honorable mentions, is this our first actual
I think this is the only
double up?
overlap.
Yeah, wow.
I love faithless looting. It's kind of a really good card. Like, I'm a sucker for a careful study. Just like 1 red, like Faithless Looting is 1 red, draw 2, discard 2, then has flashback 2 and a red. I'm a sucker for a good loot, and when you get to do it in decks that, like, it can be anything from like, again, dredge or graveyard based decks to, I don't know, I just want to up my prowess. I want to mill this off of a Thought Scour and get it later. It's so good, even in like decks like Jeskai or whatever, like a mid-range-ish deck where you might have a clunky-ish hand. And you just want to, get that Seeker of the Way going, put that Geist in the graveyard because they've got a bunch of big dumb idiots that are clogging the board. And
Discard your Flame Slash against a combo deck.
oh, love it. Love me some Faithless Looting. Yeah. I was going to put Gamble, but then I think I memed myself too hard where I'm like, come on, Ben. Gamble is a black instant. It's Entomb. It's all Entomb.
Can I just say shout out to all of us for none of us putting Brainstorm as their favorite blue sorcery? Speaking of
I
memeing.
wanted to so badly.
It shows good discipline
Yeah.
from all of us. And my green sorcery,
Jer?
Natural Order.
I'm going regrowth.
Serge, that's close.
What?
In the sense that it was regrowth up until the very end.
Oh no.
Not the very end. It was like I was going to exclude this card because I was worried there would be too many things kind of tied together, but it's Life from the Loam.
Oh.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's such
Yeah.
I love it when it's a do nothing card. I love it when it's just putting cards into my graveyard.
What does it do?
Oh God, what doesn't it do? It's 1 and a green sorcery. Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand, and it has Dredge 3. Dredge is a pretty good mechanic. Yeah, just in general. I mean, no matter how you play this, like I've played in this from returning strip mines to blow them out, returning lands to bring back Bloodghast and put more creatures in my graveyard. It has the word dredge on it, and I'm describing an action taken by the deck called Dredge. Or just like returning lands to put in your hand to discard to Wild Mongrel so it gets bigger. Like there's so much that this card does. And like I think out of all the like do nothing decks that I have built and gone like 1-0-2 drop with, like they're all just Life from the Loam like cycling decks. Like they're decks where I'm like cycle only sandbar, return Life from the Loam,
Right?
Life from the Loam, and it's just like I'm not winning, and some would argue I'm losing.
You're like, how can my turn have so many actions and I'm still just dead here? I don't understand.
God, I love it. Yeah, it's just great. I mean, Magic players love drawing cards, but this sequence of it's just everything. It's so many game actions. You're drawing, you're discarding, you're milling. You just feel like, I mean, admittedly, this is a classic. Like you feel like you're a big brain, like genius with it. And I'm aware of that, but it doesn't make it any less enjoyable.
Did I ever tell you about the legacy deck I designed based around intuition, Life from the Loam, and accumulated knowledge?
And AK,
I'm baby.
Pretty sure we had a talk where it was like we may have thought about bringing it to an event, like an SCG or something. I distinctly remember this.
It was at the time where like any deck with Chalice of the Void was playable, so it's just like trying to think up a way to draw cards through Chalice of the Void. And like, accumulated knowledge is 2 mana.
Perfect. Oh, and you got frantic inventory too now, so maybe there's new legs in this deck. You throw in an Oko, you're good to go.
Oh my God. So very interesting in the sorceries versus the instants, because when we did the instants of the 18 unique cards there could have been, we had a lot of overlap. And this time around, we had a couple people's honorable mentions were in other people's lists. And we only had 1 overlap. Why? Any insight as to why that is? Is there just more powerful sorceries?
I also went a bit more ham this time. Like, I easily could have picked Reanimate.
Yeah, you kind of have to limit, like, from a design perspective, right? You got to limit what you're willing to print at instant speed. And so at sorcery, you can design around the idea that, like, well, you're only ever going to get theoretically, you're only ever going to get to do this during your turn. And so you get a little bit more diversity in the type of effect. So I think that if we're looking for our favorite thing to do, like our, not necessarily the strongest, you get to pick our, like, this is my favorite kind of deck to play, and it uses this kind of spell as an engine, or this is the haymaker of that, and that kind of thing.
The CMCs are a lot higher for this compared to instants as well, which I don't know if that's indicative of the power level, or it just shows how competitive a card has to be as an instant in our format to make the cut there.
I mean, wait, is this counting Treasure Cruise? Because like, the mana cost on Entreat, Treasure Cruise, and Time Spiral is a little...
Sure, but like...
They're asterisked for sure.
Most of these, if we did the math, it would probably be like 2.2 CMC, Sinkhole, Wheel, a lot of 3s here. I mean, there's still a couple of 1s, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, again, I think it's because sorceries are naturally just kind of like proactive. Like, you can have removal at sorcery speed, but often the removal at sorcery speed in our format is just going to be universal, like Council's Judgment or Vindicate. And so we get to pick, like, sorceries are like, hey, what do you want to do today? Right? It's like, I want to draw 7 cards. It's like, all right, bud, let's go draw some cards. And so they're going to make you pay a little bit more. Not enough, evidently, but, little bit.
But like, you do actually just get to do what you want to do, whereas at instant speed you're like, I want to draw 7 cards, and it's like, oh well.
How about 3 and it'll cost you 6 mana?
It's just not that easy.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, any sort of closing thoughts on what we considered our top 5 sorceries in the format?
I was shocked how boring the multicolor ones were. Like, I thought about Bring to Light or Neoform, and then I just kind of like got bored.
Yeah, I almost picked Neo. I thought about Neoform and Supreme Verdict, but then I was like,
Yeah.
no.
Wargate popped up, and I'm like, Wargate just finds me Academy or Lotus,
Yeah.
but yeah.
You're like, the card I actually care about here is Academy, not the sorcery.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is print cooler, multicolored sorceries, please.
Yeah, they're also expensive.
Give
No,
me,
you're
give me Blightning at 2 mana.
I almost picked Risefall.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I mean
classic.
there's good stuff, but I don't know how many people are sitting at there clutching like pillow in the shape of Angrath's Rampage, right? Where they're like, this is my favorite thing of all time. It's like, what is it? It's like a removal spell. Okay.
I mean, Vindicate's pretty cool, but then they printed Council's Judgment. I mean, Vindicate
Yeah,
hits land, though.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess that's what I mean is that like
Yeah.
Vindicate is cool because it's Vindicate, right? And like Judgment is
Oh,
cool
man.
because it's Council's Judgment. But like,
What is actually, if Alex was here, there's a card. Oh, what is it? It has Haunt, I think is the mechanic. It's black and a white. All creatures get -1/-1.
wait, black and white.
Zealous Persecution.
Haunt. But that doesn't,
Doesn't
have
have
Haunt.
Haunt.
It doesn't have Haunt.
And
It's an instant? Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, I am so glad this is on. This is recorded.
It's your creatures get +1/+1.
Yeah.
You mixed it up with
Orzhov Pontiff.
Yeah.
Pontiff, yeah.
Yeah, that's I was like, sorcery that kills all their stuff, and it's a spell. You're like, no, Serge, you're thinking of a creature. All right, I'm gonna go back with the idea there are no good gold sorceries.
Well, I don't know if that's exactly what we were saying, but
Yeah, perfect.
Close
If you
enough.
disagree, if you think there are gold sorceries that we should have talked about, let us know in the comments down below. All right, friends, with that, we're going to call it an episode. Thank you so much for listening. A reminder that North 100 is brought to you by you with the support of the Patreon over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. I've been Serge. Joining me today has been a Jer
yes.
and a Wheeler. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.